All right, we're alive. Hey, so I don't know, that last stream was just interrupted, and we'll probably just carry on, I think. Well, I don't know when's. So anyway,
Well, I
what
mean,
were we talking about?
I was saying, what does it all mean, or what is, what are some of the things that have come out of it that we've seen through obviously the media, because the
Yeah.
media is feeding us the information. A few things that came up for me were, that social media was being attacked because of the live streaming and allowing that stuff on. What does that mean for other for our social media usage? I mean, we already know that people are being censored when it comes to certain topics.
Incredible, 2019, and we're being censored.
Yeah, so
we by our government
you
that
know,
we put in place.
let me make it clear. I'm not asking for there to be any more horrible stuff on social media, but I think it's an interesting aspect to this. Another thing that came up was that he was this person was considered to be a conspiracy theorist, which is a word that obviously people are starting to use more. We encountered
Yesterday on the farm,
we encountered a guy yesterday who said, when we were talking very lightly about stuff, was saying, no, that sounds like a conspiracy theory. So yeah, it is a word that's been banded about.
And we weren't even talking about mud
No,
god.
we weren't even talking about anything. No, we were quite tame in our conversation.
Absolutely.
And then I mean, it comes back to like the whole division thing and immigration, and that we need to hate our brothers and and
fear our brothers,
and in a way that that cuts deep for all of us. When someone loses their brother, mother, sister, even if it is or isn't, that emotion, the emotion that comes up for us all, is a deep one. We're all, as much as we shouldn't, we all have fear of that, losing someone or death, or especially if it's done in a way that seems cruel.
well,
So it affects it affects us all, and it's a great way of making us angry or wanting to rise up and say, this group did that, or that group did that, or we can hate you for that, or we can go to war with you for this, or you know it just keeps that momentum, that rhetoric going. And as
and
far
the
as
ability to write more legislation.
yeah, and I think New Zealand was, as far as I know, was pretty untouched when it came to that sort of experience. So yeah, it's just this is more of the same. I mean, Dave and I were saying this morning, it's obviously, sorry, this girl is bothering me. It's obviously just part of the unfolding that's going on. Where that's leading to.
It's funny how there'd been a lull. It felt like there was a lull in this kind of activity. But que bono, as they say, que bono, who benefits, who gains from this event? And it always seems to be that the military kind of industrial legislative complex gains the most from these things. And it does put, I think the stream may have been interrupted, and we started like we did 10 minutes before this. And I was saying how, I just see how this plays into the kicking the ball into the Tommy Robinson net, for white guys to start to feel more and more that nationalist kind of pulling together, drawing together, and hunkering down for the besiegement of invaders and stuff. And they cleverly try and dodge around it being a race issue, and they've pegged it onto paedophile grooming gangs, which I have no doubt exist, but it's being used as the the sort of the Trojan horse or the carrier to bring people to a point where they can say, yes, we're not targeting you because of your religion or your race or your ethnic origin, but because among you is a high or a degree of this kind of thing. It's, I mean, we did that. We want to say we that was done to the Irish back in the 1970s, and it was done to the, I think, the Caribbean or the West Indian kind of Jamaican crowd. That was done. I don't know if it was the 50s or in the 90s. You know, the Yardie thing, and so they kind of get this narrative running for various groups, and of course I've found in Speaker's Corner, like, groups of black people who are very anti-white, anti-white people, really quite strongly. I hadn't imagined that was there, but it's fair enough because people have been stoked. Various things have been done, and the empire has done this, and as a white person, you can come to represent that empire, and one might say, as a white person, you've gained from that, and it's also, can be said to be true. In any country, there's always the system winners, those that kind of go along with it. And in this country, that happens to be mostly the white people, but that exists in brown and yellow and grey and darker colour skins in countries, of course. So it's just a matter of the way that these things are tailored to work to get those people who are willing to go along with things, be in the military, be in the banking, be in the various systems of control, and it doesn't come that doesn't come down to a skin color things or a religious thing so much as just some people are more predisposed to that kind of way of thinking.
No, interesting. While you're talking about skin color, I'm thinking about the vibration of us when you take away the 3D kind of look of us, and actually there is no color. You're a vibration, and really that's where your heart vibrates from, what color or aura or whatever you give off. And in the 3D where the dark skin or the light skin or whatever, and that's been played against us, I think. Where
Absolutely, definitely being played against us.
Yeah.
The color, the skin thing is like, now I had thought that was sort of a thing of the past, but they're able to kind of stir the pot and bring that whole issue back to the fore. And as I said, I've met a kind of vehement dislike of me because of my skin color in Speaker's Corner. Because of my skin color, not really for any other reason. Perhaps blue eyes, that doesn't help that cause. But
another thing I was thinking about while you were talking is actually how, and this is also sort of metaphysical, but how low vibe this whole conversation is. I was just saying to Dave earlier today, we must be in our bliss and and be just present and trying to just enjoy that we're having this experience, whatever that may be. And and yeah, we are talking about this, this thing that brings up all sorts of anxieties or.
cool.
Or,
well, I'm glad you mentioned that because I can kind of shortcut this conversation, I think, and that's probably worth doing because we don't need to belabor the events, horrible as they. If people really died, as I said in the earlier thing, then rest in peace, and I'm sorry to those families affected. It would be a dreadful, dreadful thing to be caught up in something like that. So, having said that, we know that this is, for me, it's almost like another reminder that the game is on and that there is a timeline and that people are being pressed. Now, whether it's that they're able to harvest our energy into the ether and they're trying to get people to be generally in their regions unhappy so that they're feeding unhappy energy into the heart of this system, or whether it's that they are trying to bring about that kind of snap in a societal construct, that they can bring the Tommy Robinson type characters to the fore who bring about certain, let's say, revolutionary type acts. And these acts cause for there to be a demand for a major overhaul of the system as it currently stands. that is finally met, a little bit like the French situation, where finally met with concessions. I mean, and this Brexit thing is just, it's just such a wound that they've just been niggling and niggling for 2 years now. And I think I saw a headline yesterday. They're delaying things yet more, and it's just painful to watch, and people are so drawn into this. So, it's just a reminder that the game is real. The game is on.
I think you just said it, drawn into it, hey? And for me, that's what it is, So I could sit here all day having this conversation about what's happening in New Zealand or in all sorts of parts of the world, or what's going on in various theatres, and the stuff is very kind of low vibe, and can bring about fear, and which it does. I mean, this certainly will for some people, and but I think that's where you've got to make the choice. You've got to make the choice and use your discernment to go, actually, I see it. I'm not gonna put my head in the sand. I'm looking at the beast, but I'm not going to spend my time staring at it and involved in it. Because I think love is the way out of this. The love vibration is the way out of this. And it starts with our inward work. It starts with loving ourselves, accepting ourselves, not judging ourselves, so that we can then be that light to others and be the high vibe that we need to be.
Right
Because
on.
I think that's what they prefer we were. These head down.
That's what we are right
Yeah.
now, aren't we? We're, if you look at the collective, we're sort of low vibing. People are ill, dis-ease is rife.
Fearful,
Not trusting your brother and sister,
No.
in fact, telling the authorities, informing the authorities. In my case,
Your
twice
son is
in the very
barefoot.
short time, yeah, and he's growing plants.
But I think the focus. It's not about. You absolutely need to know what's going on, but it's where you then put your focus. Where your focus goes, your
Energy
energy
flows.
flows. And it's got to be, the intention has got to be something different. Well, certainly that's how we feel, right? It's being informed, being awake, but then choosing something different.
Sounds like the little boy's awake. Hey, Alexander. Yeah, I mean that's it. But for me, the question is also, is it going to be like a is there coming, what this timeline is, what this countdown is it bringing about this sort of snap event? Is it bringing about this moment where there is what seems to be a paradigm shift and people are duped? Let me say that again. People are duped into thinking that change has now finally come in the form of a female, maybe president for the American thing, or the United Nations, a female that leads the United Nations, or I mean, I used to think Madeleine Albright when I was back in the day, man, early 90s. I used to think that she was like, someone who was going to maybe be a savior to humanity, having a woman. And then Colin Powell, as I would say, he was a black man, Secretary of State, and again, I thought mistakenly that he was going to be like, wow. Same with Obama. How could a guy who is claimed to be on the outside? So, what's the next deception? And Trump, he's meant to be this, like, he's just a successful businessman. Oh my Lord, when people say that, I'm thinking, have they not been paying attention? I just thought that when people got to flat Earth and beyond, the mud flood and the Tartaria and the electromagnetic universe, they would have seen through the deception. I was talking to a friend the other day. I won't mention his name now, but he's a flat earther of some known. Some people know him around, and he's still talking to me like atoms are real. So the entire construct is a fabrication. For instance, the entire construct is a fabrication, and for that reason, you have to know how incredibly stitched up it all is. That all governments are of one franchise. The franchise might be split into two or perhaps three sub-franchises, yeah, and they're used to kind of have the blue red versus the green yellow type. That might be the case. I wouldn't say that they're all necessarily always feast at the same table, but ultimately all governments are aligned and in one franchise system. That's the way it works. There's a map. We've drawn the lines. Some system defenders would suggest that it's simply the conflicts that we've been taught about in history that are the reasons that the lines are drawn where they are. It's all one construct. And for that reason, it's hard to see how it ever goes away until people choose otherwise. And really, the majority of people, be honest with yourself, the majority of people are still, when pressed, choosing the system, choosing to have, oh yeah, we need someone to monitor our roads. Therefore, we'll give away all our rights to make a whole raft of decisions for ourselves. And actually, whatever system comes, it will continue to enable the reduction of you. The reduction of you through usury, through taxations, and a whole raft of other control mechanisms. It's it's hard to know. Sometimes it's hard to see that system so well laid out is prepared to go away. That it's like only a matter of years or months or whatever till some event, some cataclysm causes the whole infrastructure to go away. I'm not saying it can't happen, a mud flood event or whatever. I'm not saying it can't happen, but it just seems like they're still setting themselves up, like they're still tightening this net to create this uber culture for the very few, and exploit the energetic output. I heard something the other day that was very useful and interesting about how we might choose to come here. We might choose to have this experience, and if we learn the lessons that we've come here to learn, and this is an important thing, I think, is if we learn the lessons we've come here to learn, then we perhaps don't come back. The system players who are stuck here, there are some who are those, let's call them the fallen angels, who are stuck here, and they want to increase actually the number of souls they can control, that they hold down here, to maximize their pleasure, gratuitous, sometimes disgusting pleasures that it seems that they thrive on. I found that quite a fascinating concept. But truly, if you are here listening to this, by now you are meant to be doing something. You're meant to be growing in some way, and really I feel to be contributing in some way. A lot of people don't contribute. No, that's unfair. Let me take that back. It doesn't matter whether people do or don't contribute. I just think that it's the mission that it was the task we set out on, and we're not meant to sit on the sofa and watch Formula One. We're meant to be, I don't know, maybe that doesn't matter too. It's about finding ourselves. Despite the madness around us, there is just so much madness around us, and people don't seem to want to notice. People don't seem to want to care. So if an event comes that changes everything, I know that my spirit is as right as it can be, and I know that I've been working on kind of that. So, whatever the onward, whether it's like a Pompeii-like moment where everything is covered, or there's a survival for some or many, and that survival needs to be, is that survival is empowered by having done much of the inner work that sets us prepared for such a cataclysmic and unfortunate eventuality. I'm not suggesting that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying, if that were to be a scenario, and I consider it to be a little bit more likely nowadays. We know about mud flood. We know about how much of Tartaria, existed, or rather, the Tartarian type construction existed across the world. um, the questions about whether there's more land. I like the idea. I'm not sure that we're necessarily to vex ourselves over that so much as it's such a powerful tool of division. Don't get me wrong. I think that your birthright is to know all of everything. There is no doubt about that. Your birthright is to know it all. One might argue that to know it all, you can't be given it all at birth. You have to kind of earn it. I can kind of go along with that, but I don't really accept that. It has to be, the information has to be withheld at a gunpoint and by poison vaccine and chemtrail and junk food, junk information, junk pornography, junk Hollywood bullshit ideas and themes about who and what we should be. All of that is just junk designed to kind of hold you in the Sodom and Gomorrah mind. So our journey, because I was stuck in the few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, stuck in the false flags and the fake terror, and trying to get people around me to see it. And then you come across people, like Max Egan or whatever. They claim to have been doing it for 20 years, and yet they've only managed to get like 100,000 people to pay attention, or a few 100,000 people to pay attention. These people have been doing such hard work for all these years. It should be a matter of fact. But the fact is, the media or the minds are controlled by the system. I guess like that movie, The Matrix, Neo had to go within to change the system. And that's the only place that we were going to be able to change the system, my friend, is within. Because without, it's just playing games. Maybe it's trying to tell people. Maybe it needs people to kind of do this. Maybe it's not allowed to tell people, but to force us off the sofa to do the soul work. The guy who did this, Pope, allegedly did this event in Christchurch. He claims a whole lot of stuff that really seeks to undermine truth-seeking and so on. So this is kind of going to go on and on and on. But if an event comes, hopefully you're ready. Hopefully you've done the work you need to. Me too. If not, I think we just have to. I think that we have to grow the light. You grow the light from within and you let it shine. You let it shine, and eventually there's enough light to overtake the dark. But there's a lot of dark right now, and until we shift that dark from ourselves, the dark will remain. I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see the commentary. Hey, there's a bit of commentary. I wasn't. Hey, Drew. Hi, guys. Hey, Red Eye. Thanks, Tommy. Just saying hi. There's a few guys saying hi. GMCDXX, a YouTuber awake now too, was showing the unedited shooting in a live stream. Looked fake. He was shut down immediately. Yeah, I mean, that whole, it was done on a live stream makes me think that the live streaming thing is going to be restricted soon. And I noticed Drew, because Drew says he had Black and Sun neo-Nazi patches, dog tags, sniff test fail, sure shook citizens up, yeah, it does. Common in America. He also wrote in the bit of the manifesto I read, he wrote that he fancies, it's the wrong language, he idolizes or would admired Dylan Roof. Where was that in Tennessee or somewhere? I forget now. And also the Anders Breivik business on Otoya Island. Yeah, back in the day, by Dylan Roof, I wasn't really taking that stuff seriously. But hey, 007, how you going? Yeah, Tommy, the authorities are only going to take away more freedom, that's for sure. It's all meant, and people are in the main are just kind of going along with that, and yeah, I had a conversation with two people from the sort of normal world, as it were, three people from the normal world yesterday, and it was like, whew, we're so far away from that now. It's really difficult to kind of spend a lot of time with people that are still so stuck in that, still, the government's okay, they do, this and that. Yeah. Hey, Cosmic, nice to see you. Hope your foot's well. Hi, National Memorial Gardens, Nathan. Yeah, I appreciate your comments and your kind comments. And I might have even seen something on your channel the other day. I forget now. Yeah, don't watch the news. And it's a waste of time. Good for you, my friend. Growing a gang of... Yeah. Hey, Steve, how you going, brother? Yeah. Nice to see you, man. Have to catch up sometime. What you're saying, Drew, that the politicians are, well, GMCDX says our politicians are corporate puppets. Yeah, I mean, I was actually, someone was saying that, and I wondered about whether the hierarchy, which way around it is, because for me, the government probably is a similar level to the very top of the corporatocracy, plutocracy. Yeah. Do you like little boys? Yeah. Well, actually, 007, I was just thinking about it today. When I was up in Enfield, doing work up in Enfield, I had the displeasure of, having two encounters with a leading politician. He was a government junior minister. I don't think he ever got to senior minister level, but got to junior minister level, and gay, and he fancied me a little bit. That was obvious from the encounter. Yeah, I didn't think too much of it. It's just there's a lot of that in that kind of thing. free man movement and all that, and I can't really comment too much on that. I think that there have been people who've done work on that, Dave Murphy being one of them, who they seem to struggle, and it's because they're actually struggling against the system. It's like you're applying, I think, because you're applying to the system for permission to be freemen, and that's, in its sense, is the whole problem with all of this, is that actually, why the heck are we applying to the government for permission for anything? It should be them applying to us for permission, and somehow that's all gotten cockeyed. So, it just blows my mind that you have to basically apply to the government to do anything at all, and they've done through fear. They've caused us to give away our power into the government and say, yes, government must basically determine things for us. So, when people complain about nanny statism, that's what we've created. It's our creation, and only really us can take that back. But applying to it for permission, could we stand here and have a thing and stuff? That seems to me to be like acknowledging that it's like when they say, don't say to the police that you understand, because you're saying you stand under their authority. And this is the same kind of thing that you go, can we apply on which forms should we fill in to ask for permission? Fuck that. We need to do differently. Excuse my language, it is a Saturday afternoon. Hello, darling Roxanne, the globalist denier. How nice to see you. And I have to say, no bullet holes in the wall. Our potential is great, and we and I think we, by our example, have to be that greatness. We can't rely on titles and degrees and things like that. We can't rely on those things to be our, even in the priesthood, what I mean? Basically, by the time you've been through 5-7 years of seminary or whatever, and you've got the right cloth on, then people will give you all that respect simply because of that. You need do no more. Whereas here, we get to this age or wherever you are, and you realize that, the thing that I am most is my honor. Who am I? What is my honor? And my actions, my actions and my spirit, my energy, and that's what we have to kind of get back to, because the more I'm trying to find a way out of this, my housing situation and my work-life balance and all of that, and I'm having to interact with people out in the regular world, as it were, and everybody's after their piece of paper. What paper have you got behind this? What paper have you got? What insurance have you got on that? And what can you, you have to come with a detailed CV. You can't just turn up and be mono and have that kind of relationship so much anymore. Because we don't trust each other anymore. So we need an intermediary. We need intercessory. No longer it's the vicar and his black robes, it's the judge with his black robes. Curious. Anyway, it's nice to have a few friends in the people I've actually met in person in the chat, so that's cool. Awesome real talk. Thanks, Roxanne. I haven't been listening to a lot of stuff lately, but I know I was talking about this event that happened in Christchurch, because it's been a while since we've had an event like this, and it particularly targets things that we do, like live streaming and talking about system flaws. And that's obviously going to come under a more increasing attack, and we're going to feel, if we want to, we can feel really maligned and really kind of put upon. But I think while we have the opportunity to talk to each other, I have to say what I feel so strongly about, and that is to not get caught in the mud fight, the mud pyre. see it for what it is, absolutely, you know, and satisfy yourself with a hour or 5 of investigation separately into a subject matter and so on. I think that's whatever, you know, but I'm just encouraging people not to stay in that fight, because that's obviously what they want. That's obviously what they want. They want the ongoing squabble, and they want to divide us. And you know, I see that even with, you know, the models of how a flat Earth might look. I think you know, I'm not a big fan of the azimuthal equidistant myself anymore, but I'm not willing to, you know, get into an argument. I mean, I might get a little vociferous in my expression of what I think something is, because that's just the way I am. But I'm not looking to, you know, have enmity with my brothers and sisters. In fact, I'm trying to even reach out to to ball, the people who can walk underneath balls, those people, because we are one brotherhood and sisterhood, and we're meant to be kind of finding the love. So eventually we've got to find our way back together. But right now, things like that, what happened in Christchurch, and is super set to cause more division. It's going to be a shot in the arm to the kind of right-wing neo-Nazi type mindset. And I'm sorry if you're a fan of Tommy Robinson, but I'm sorry to say that Jewish fella is not really on the side of truth. You know what I'm saying? There's a version of truth. There's a oh well, we're about anti the pedo grooming gangs version of the truth, and then there's a but who's creating these situations? Who's funding? You know, who's enabling? Who's creating the conflict and the disconcert in the regions from which these people are migrating? Why are they migrating, and why has the promise sort of a better future for your children, you know, when families went off to war in World War II, perhaps, you know, there was a promise that, you know, we were going to get rid of fascism and all this dictatorship, and things were going to get better. Well, let me tell you, my father's house, when he bought his first house about a year before I was born, maybe 2 years before I was born, so that was 1966, he paid £3,500 for it. £3,500 wouldn't cover me for 2 months' rent now. So my dad bought his first house in England for less than it cost me to rent this house for 2 months. You see, that's something that most people go, yeah, well, you know, that's just economics, you know, and capitalism and the way it is, and you know, what can we do about that? So that's the disempowered. They think that there's nothing that we can do about that. Well, there's an awful lot we can do about that, but we have to first become awake to that, you know, and awake in a way that means that we can do something constructive rather than, you know, what was that Occupy movement? You see, that was well intentioned, I'm sure, by the majority of people involved in that, but you know, the system ain't listening. 1 million men, or apparently 500,000 people, marched on Downing Street to say no to the Gulf War, the second Gulf War, Tony Blair's lie. Tony B. Liar. Tony B. Liar convinced me that there was 45 minutes to mass destruction. And even for years afterwards, I still kind of made excuses for them. And they were searching and searching, and we can't find it anywhere. Now you look back at George Bush taking the piss, mocking people who still believe that shit. I got tracked. Now there's a guy called Laurel. Hi, Laurel. Lewis. That seems like a Dutch kind of surname or something. But our culture was indeed made up from about 1800 to 1850. I'm kind of I'm kind of in thinking the same thing. I mean, maybe you know, maybe it's a bit here and there. And Martin Leakes said something the other day when I was chatting with him in the chat room, and he said something about, you know, that mud floods are happening all the time. So, was there a cycle over 100 years of places being flooded and people just being shuffled around? And is that what's happening in the Middle East, for example, in the Syrian regions? Are they, do they have areas they have to vacate of people while the mud flood occurs, and then they send the military in to tidy it up and stuff? Freemasons, I don't know. Hey, I hope 007. I hope you get your hands on some DMT. It's definitely experience worth having. Thanks for that, Tommy. I agree. I think it's for me, it's it's got to be in the staged thing. I haven't looked at it closely enough, and I looked at the guy's manifesto, actually, some of it, and it looked almost like it had been written by a journalist. It had a few glaring grammatical errors and things like that that seemed, you want to leave that in, but I don't know. It just, the tenses are wrong. It's like it's been written by a guy who's talking after the fact, and again, is this a time waster? I don't really even want to be wasting too much time on it. It's just, it's a low, as Andrea was saying earlier on, it's low vibration activity, and we're angry and in a sense powerless, because we know that we're being messed with. And then we go and talk to our family members who think we're nuts. And, there's this mindset that, they're going to try and they're going to eventually make this kind of conversation or what Tommy just wrote about, it being obviously a stage thing, that kind of thing might be seen as seditious, actually anti-freedom. So I guess you got to consider the possibility that this is, something that's going to become rarefied. Yeah, well, I'm not able to, what am I going to say? Sometimes I feel like I don't want to waste your time, and so I don't come and chat. And sometimes I think, shall I need to chat? One, for me to be able to kind of offload some of my thoughts, although, some of my best conversations, I'm obviously not recording, I'm just having them with Andrea or whatever, but I feel like there's a place for people like me, and I want to honor that. You see, the attack in Christchurch is one designed to tug on the strings of racist leanings and racist thinking and so on, both or across all the color spectrum. Okay, not this, this isn't really, but it obviously it fingers the white guy again in this case, and it stokes him up against his sort of Muslim neighbor or perhaps his black neighbor, in a way. So as a white guy, I have an opportunity to talk to other white guys as well as black guys too, and Muslim guys, brown and all shades again, to meet as equals, and to meet on their level, and to remind one another that actually we're all in this together, and there isn't some kind of white conspiracy. There's what plays into the white guys' kind of fears is that there is a conspiracy to wipe out white people, and I think that that's true, but I think that's likely true for every hue and every group. When they talk about the Georgia Guidestones wanting to limit human population to 500 million, etc., etc., how do you know they haven't already mostly achieved that? And that the means of them achieving that is not through some flood, but through a tsunami of cancer and self-hatred and suicide disease and shortened lifespans. Because imagine if you were meant to live 150 years, but you only live 60 and 70 and 80, then you've immediately halved the number of population at any one time, because you're halving the lifespan. But there's so many other ways of keeping the population numbers down. So, why was I saying that? We have to know that we're in this together, and that we have to rise above. I think I've said this once before, actually. We have to rise above the religions and the color bandings and the national or regional kind of groupings that we have been taught to hold so dear. We have to rise up above those things, friends, and find first our humanity together. And only then will we stop the beer swilling, McDonald's munching, porn consuming mayhem that is the chaos that this system uses to maintain their own order. Because the work that I have done and others have done on themselves to move from that kind of place, that Sodom and Gomorrah place, is real work that has to be done. It's a real journey that has to be walked, tread by each of us. I can't do it for anyone else. I can guide and recommend and suggest, point and probe, but I can't do it for anyone else. And that's true for us all. So we can point and guide and advise people, but then we have to carry on doing our own work, not be lost in trying to be the fucking most outspoken this or that or that. I don't criticize anybody for getting stuck in 9/11 or whatever. If that's their path, that's their path. You know what I'm saying? That's not for me to pass a judgment on. But my advice to myself and to others is to keep doing the inward work. Yes, don't stop doing the research into what and who we are and how this thing is. But if that's all you do and you're not spending time on yourself, then they've essentially held your mind again, which is what entertainment means, isn't it? The mind, hold the mind. They've held it within some kind of other angry construct. And in the case of Christchurch, a very potentially unfortunate construct. There's Dick Flinghammer. Do you like that name? Hi. Guys are talking about bitcoins and things like that. Well, good luck. I mean, if you can get some money out of that and stuff, saying that, I'm trying to get to a point where I'm much more permaculture. I'm going to be talking to plain permaculture, hopefully on Sun and Moon in the next week or two. When Karen sorts that out, that'll be cool. I'm honestly, when I think of myself like in the, say, farming or growing things and nurturing things and so on, which I really want to do, I have to stop myself from thinking, oh, well, so if it's successful and I could rent another 10 acres of land and grow a bit more there, if that's like that, you start in there very quickly. Now you're playing back in the system. Now you have to be getting all the licenses and hiring all of this and paying all of that, and it's not to want to not contribute to economic churn, but at the same time to be caught up in now my overheads are £100,000 a year and all of this sort of thing. Well, I think we might get lost like that. Anyway, my wife is saying I gotta go. I'm really glad that there's 20-30 people here, which is awesome for me, by the way, and I thank you for stopping by and watching this at a later time. Cool. And if there's something you want me to talk on specifically, just drop something in the comments and I'll maybe do that. And I look forward to catching up with you soon. And cheers, Steve. Come visit